welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be working on the FD once again. In the last video I brought the FD down to the shop, made a turbo manifold. I'm going to actually change the turbo manifold just a little bit. There were a few things I didn't like about it. So the good thing is I have plenty of flanges. I plan on making 8 more of the manifolds once I get this one made. Finally was able to get the FD turbo manifold in an orientation I think is going to flow extremely well. So before I made this manifold, I had, I believe, an eBay turbo manifold, the one that came on the car when I bought it. The issue I was having with it, so when I had the car retuned on the Power FC, I wanted to make 500 to 600 horsepower on it, and I was having big issues with boost creep. So the turbo manifold had a single 44 mil coming directly off the pipes, no orientation for the wastegate, and it boost creep 10 to 15 psi, which was very sketchy. It was getting me into like the 30 psi range, and it was very inconsistent. Every time it was a different boost level, and it just wouldn't gate off the pressure very well. So now, as you guys can see, I have the two 38 mils oriented or prioritized very well with the exhaust, and they're coming off a 90-degree bend at the same angle, and they're both coming off at 45s. So I shouldn't have any more boost creep issues. The reason this turbo manifold actually took so long to make was because I designed my own CNC T4 flanges that are 1/2 inch, and the engine flanges which are 1/2 inch. And then I already had the 9180 Borg-Warner EFR. The old turbocharger on here was a Garrett GT3582R, and it just was running out of steam. Garretts are very old technology. They really haven't done much innovation in turbo technologies in quite some time. They've just been regurgitating stuff that's out there, and Borg-Warner came out with these EFRs quite some time now, but when they came out with them, they put a bunch of R&D in these things, and these things by far are probably the best turbocharger on the market. Most of the turbos that people use, I mean, they're getting them for free. That's why they're using them. So I had to buy this. They're like $3 grand. But that being said, I'm going to be very, very happy with how this turbo performs. And I think I should be able to get my goal of 600 horsepower. But also the Power FC that I'm using is very old technology as well. It's 90s tech. So there's a certain amount of tuning that you can do with it, but at this level, it's pretty much useless. So I may end up putting my Power FC into the FC, just get a patch harness, and then I'm gonna use the new Haltech that I bought. So the Haltech, I can actually get rid of the million AEM gauges that I have, use one single CAN bus gauge, which will clean my interior up tremendously, and then I can also tune so much more with it. Put all my fuel pressure sensor in there, and all my sensors. I could put exhaust back pressure sensors in, and yeah, just no bounds almost. Also, what I can do with it, which I did buy, was I have coil on plug instead of the normal coils with, you know, plug wires. I mean, it's just tacky. I moved mine because it was in the way. The new intake manifold didn't account for how high they sat, so I couldn't put the coils in the stock location, so I just made a bracket and stuck them over there for now. But now I won't have to have those over there. I won't have to have a bunch of wires running around. I'll just have to do this and then wire these in to the new Haltech harness, which won't be a big deal. Eventually I want to get rid of this throttle body. I just really don't like it. I don't like that it doesn't have an idle air control valve, because I have to set the idle high enough that it doesn't have that nice brap brap sound, because this engine is pretty much everything done to it except for a peripheral port, which I end up wanting to do eventually, because then I can get rid of that intake manifold and make me a manifold with a heat exchanger and stuff in it, so I could eliminate my intercooler and pretty much just make the whole system very short, and my intake temps, bringing them down considerably. So that being said, what I'm going to do now is pretty much strip everything off the front of the engine, because in probably the upper intake manifold and maybe the fuel rails and stuff, because I want to pretty much get rid of the water pump. I'm going to run an electric water pump and get rid of the power steering pump. I want to move the alternator down here. There supposedly is a bracket, but I can't find it. And then I want to redo the oil cooler. So this project was just supposed to end up being me making a turbo manifold to replace the old one, and then it turned into this big project, especially doing all the CAD and designing for the flanges, and then designing my own manifold, which is now equal length. But I should have this done in the next couple months. I'm going to kind of work on it off and on in between the charger and everything. But I also designed my own titanium flange. I didn't like how the Borg-Warner flanges came, because they had like a ridge that stuck up beyond the turbocharger, and to me that just would make vortexes when it wanted to transition back into the pipe. So this is all smooth transitioned. It goes 3-inch to 4-inch titanium. Then I have ordered the titanium for the exhaust, so once that comes, I'll tack everything up, get the exhaust tacked up, and then have somebody that knows how to weld titanium weld it. I'm also going to have a titanium muffler in there. I was thinking about not putting a muffler in there, but I want it to be a little bit, or a resonator, I want it to be a little bit toned down. So that being said, let's get to work on this, pretty much get it all the way stripped down to where I think I'll be able to make some good progress, get the water pump and everything off, and then just kind of go from there. I was able to make a lot of progress on the FD. I was able to remove the engine bay harness. This thing is very hideous. There's a bunch of relays and fuse boxes in the engine bay. As you guys remember, if you haven't seen it, or if you're new to the channel, I relocated everything in my 240SX, tucked the harness, it came out really nice, everything works. It just like factory, I utilized the factory fuse box and just condensed it and made it not look like this. Obviously this thing, like the 240, wrapped around the engine bay and then back into the car. Just doesn't make sense. So what I wanted to do was clean up the engine bay quite a bit, and plus this harness was kind of modified over time. I had to fix quite a few things. There's a car alarm installed. When I got the car, it didn't really want to run right, so I fixed that. I fixed a bunch of battery issues, but now I have the new turbo manifold that I made and designed on there. I really like how it came out. One of my subscribers was asking if I actually have these available for sale. So I have 9 of these left. They just locate the return right there, and it just works perfect for mine because my return will just go directly to that. And I have the engine down to the keg. And that's being said, this is a fully built 13B. It has a triple plate X-Steady clutch, and I need to pull the engine out of it actually. But the plan is I'm gonna wire up the Haltech, but I have these coil on plugs right here, so I won't have to run the normal coils. And I have the Haltech, and with using the Haltech and utilizing the Haltech, I could run one CAN bus gauge instead of a bunch of AEM gauges. So as you see right here, this, I actually patched it into the harness so it's clean. You can see it right here, and it goes into the car. But yeah, I had 4 different gauges, and it's just a lot of excess wiring. So with a CAN bus gauge, all I have to do, and utilizing a Haltech instead of a Power FC, all I have to do is actually leave all the sensors that I've already wired in, the oil pressure, the fuel pressure, the manifold pressure, and that one CAN bus gauge will show me boost pressure, it'll show me fuel pressure, it'll show me AFRs, etc. So I won't have to have a million gauges. I'll just have one nice CAN bus gauge, and then all of the sensors will actually be ran through the ECU, and then the ECU will be feeding the CAN bus gauge, so I won't have a bunch of redundant sensors doubling up on intake, air temp, coolant temp, stuff like that. It'll be kind of like the Hellcat. The Hellcat display shows you everything you want to know, and that's kind of what I like, and I really like the cleanliness of it and not having a bunch of doubled up sensors for no real reason other than to see what the ECU already has been told, and you should just be able to get the information out of it. So that's the one plus about the Haltech. The other plus is I'm gonna have coil and plug. I'm gonna have all the wiring redone. I'm actually gonna pull the keg out of the car and kind of just go through it. I'm gonna run an electric water pump instead of the belt-driven water pump. As you guys saw, I made and designed this turbo manifold. I have my turbo located where I want. Then I could rerun the heater hoses and stuff like that. I just wanted to really consolidate this engine just to make it more efficient, because how it was set up before when I bought the car, and I've just been kind of improving stuff as I went. I improved the whole fuel system. I mean, 1700Xs, 1050Xs, it is ready to go. The clutch was already good. The previous owner actually invested in a X-Steady triple plate, and it doesn't have very many miles on it. It has a new oil pump, and the engine was just freshly gone through, I think, under 1,000 miles ago. So there's not very much that I really need to do other than pull it out, freshen it up, do the electric water pump system, do the new radiator system. I'm going to go water to air eventually, so I'll have to figure that out. And then also, if you guys haven't seen, I have these block off plates. They use the factory Mazda O-ring instead of silicone. So, I mean, you can see that there's no leaking from either of those. They both utilize the factory gaskets. So it's really a nice setup. But that being said, in the next video, I'll probably start wiring this up. I need to order a lot of connectors so I could just crimp all the terminals and have a very clean install. I'm going to end the video here. If you like these videos, make sure you click the subscribe button, thumbs up, throw a comment below. As always, see you guys next time.